A man vanishes in Raventon, and the town pretends not to notice. That alone puts me on edge. What truly unsettles me is that his belongings surface in a place no living soul willingly visits. The morning fog folds itself around the city like a cold, wet cloak. Raventon wakes slowly, its streets echoing with the muffled clatter of hooves and the distant groan of wagon axles. I sit in my office, wrestling with a week of paperwork that refuses to balance itself, when the bell above my door jolts the silence with a sharp metallic ring. I look up. A woman stands in the doorway, elegant but unmistakably shaken. Her gloves tremble as she closes the door, and a drop of fog clings to her hair like a pearl. "Mr. Hale," she asks, her voice tight. "That depends on why you're looking for him," I answer, rising. "I am Eleanor Hartwell," she says. "My husband, Thomas Hartwell, is missing. I was told you're the only man in Raventon willing to look where others will not." A fair assessment. I gesture toward the chair opposite mine. She sits carefully, though her eyes wander, scanning the room as if afraid of what she might see. "When did you last see him?" I ask. 3 nights ago. He left at dusk, said he needed to meet someone at the warehouses near Porter's Wharf. He wouldn't say who, he simply put on his coat and walked out." "Does he do that often?" "Never. Thomas avoids the wharf." "Everyone does, Mr. Hale, you know that." "Indeed. Porter's Wharf is the kind of place where secrets cling to the walls like mold." She continues, voice lowering. "Yesterday morning, someone left his pocket knife and his watch on the stone steps beneath the old river bridge, placed neatly, as if arranged for me to find." I lean back, letting the details settle. The bridge, the steps, the items arranged purposefully. This is no accident but a message. "Did your husband receive threats, letters, unusual visitors?" She hesitates, then nods. "He received letters these past weeks. He hid them from me. Whenever I entered the room, he folded them away, almost violently. He claimed they were business matters, but his hands shook. Fear. Again that word brushes the air. I'll need access to his study," I say, "and every letter he kept hidden." "You may take whatever you require," she replies. Her voice wavers, then steadies with effort. "Only find him, Mr. Hale, alive." I escort her to the door. The fog swallows her silhouette as she steps onto the street. I stay at the threshold a moment longer, letting my eyes adjust to the shifting gray. Across the road, a man stands with his collar raised and his hat pulled low. He watches us with the stillness of a predator. When our gazes meet, he pivots sharply and disappears into the mist. So the case is not waiting for me to begin it. It has already started without my permission. Porter's Wharf sits at the edge of Raventon like a rotting tooth, too stubborn to fall out, too ruined to be of use. The fog thickens as I approach, carrying the heavy scent of river mud, rusted chains, and wet timber. The old warehouses loom like crooked giants, each one sagging under its own history. I step off the main road and onto the warped planks of the wharf. They creak under my weight, complaining loudly, as though warning me to turn back. I ignore them. The river laps lazily at the pylons below, but the rest of the wharf feels unnervingly still. Too still. I begin with the steps beneath the bridge, the last known location of Thomas Hartwell's belongings. The stone is slick, worn down by decades of river spray. I crouch and study the area. The mud bears faint impressions, heel marks, the outline of a boot and something longer dragged across the ground. A struggle. Not dramatic, but controlled. I track the scuffs to a section of timber where the planks splinter outward. Someone slammed into it recently. The wood is fresh enough to tell me it happened within the last few days, exactly when Thomas disappeared. Someone knew exactly where to leave the items, I mutter. A faint scrape echoes behind me. I turn. A man stands halfway behind a stack of crates. Thin frame, broad hat, hands tucked into his coat. He watches me with interest he doesn't bother hiding. "Morning," I call out. He doesn't answer. Instead, he shifts his weight and steps back into the fog. I follow for several paces, but he vanishes between the warehouses with practiced ease. Suspicious, but not the kind of man who acts alone. I return to the wharf's edge and examine the ground more closely. Two sets of footprints, one slightly larger than the other. One pattern is clean and deliberate, Thomas perhaps. The other is deeper, heavier, angled like someone dragging or guiding another person. The tracks lead toward Warehouse 3, the oldest one on the lot. Its windows are shuttered from inside, and a thick padlock seals the front doors. Yet the dirt around it is freshly disturbed. Someone was here recently, maybe still is. I press my ear to the wood. Silence too absolute to be natural. As I circle the building, I notice a sliver of paper caught between two planks near the back corner. I extract it carefully. It's part of an envelope torn. Only one word remains visible in smeared ink. Lorne. I tuck it into my coat. I don't know the name, but the moment I hold it, the wharf seems to shift, like the air itself recognizes it. A gust of wind rattles the shutters overhead, and the river churns louder, as if urging me to leave. I take one last look around, then turn toward the road. Whoever took Thomas Hartwell chose this place for a reason, and whoever the mysterious Lorne is, he or they just became my next thread to pull. West Hill Crossing greets me with the crisp scent of pine smoke and the neat symmetry of well-kept houses. A stark contrast to Raventon's gloom, and an even starker contrast to Porter's Wharf. The Hartwell residence stands on a small rise overlooking the road. White shutters, polished brass fixtures, everything arranged with the kind of care that suggests stability, which makes Thomas Hartwell's disappearance all the more disruptive. Mrs. Hartwell opens the door before I knock, as though she has been standing behind it, listening for my steps. "Mr. Hale, please come in." The interior is warm, orderly, and suffused with the faint sweetness of pipe tobacco. Not Thomas's brand. Not any brand I recognize. I file that observation away. "His study is this way," she says, guiding me through a narrow hallway lined with framed landscapes. Her posture remains rigid, but every few steps she glances back at me, as if bracing for bad news I have not yet delivered. We enter the study. It is a modest room, wood-paneled walls, a single window, a desk cluttered with neatly stacked papers. The faint tobacco smell is strongest here. I begin with the desk. Letters, ledgers, receipts, all ordinary. But the bottom drawer resists when I pull it. Locked. "May I ask?" She retrieves a small brass key from a porcelain dish and hands it to me with reluctant fingers. The drawer slides open. Inside lies a bundle of letters tied with twine. All envelopes are blank. No names, no wax seals. I untie the bundle and scan the contents. The handwriting is rushed, jagged, and each note contains only short phrases. "Meet me again. Same place." "He knows." I lift my eyes to Mrs. Hartwell. "You never saw these." "No," she whispers. "Thomas kept that drawer locked, always." Under the letters lies something stranger, a torn half of a map. The fragment shows only the Riverside district, but a single point is marked with ink near the very bridge where his watch was found. Someone wanted Thomas to go there, more than once. I continue examining the room. A faint scuff mars the floor near the window. Something heavy was dragged, recently. The kind of mark furniture makes when forcibly pulled aside. I push the chair from the corner and discover a small indentation in the floorboards, a hiding spot. Empty now. Someone searched this room before I arrived. "Mrs. Hartwell," I ask quietly, "who else had access to this house?" "No one," she replies too quickly. "I mean the staff, perhaps, but they would never." Her voice stumbles. I follow her gaze to the doorway where a housemaid lingers with an expression too rigid to be casual. I step closer. "You there? Your name?" "Clara, sir," she murmurs. Her eyes dart briefly to the desk, then away. "What did you see the night Mr. Hartwell left?" She hesitates, an instant too long. Nothing, sir." She's lying. Not boldly, but with the kind of fear that comes from knowing more than one should. As she retreats down the hall, I catch a detail she did not intend to reveal. A smear of dark residue on her cuff, the same color as the mud from Porter's Wharf. Mrs. Hartwell watches me, unsure whether to speak. I give her a calm, steady look. "Your husband was being followed long before he vanished. Someone searched this room, someone who knew exactly what they wanted. And you think, Clara, I interrupt gently, that this house is no safer than the wharf. Outside, a carriage rolls past, but I hear something else layered beneath it, a whisper of movement near the window. A silhouette vanishes before I can catch its shape. The circle around Thomas Hartwell is tightening, and now it's tightening around his home as well. By the time I return to Raventon, the afternoon sky has sunk into a dull pewter haze. The streets glow faintly with lantern light, though the day is far from over. The fog thickens again, more deliberate now, as if it has followed me from West Hill Crossing with purpose. My office sits above a cooper's workshop, its windows rattling with every hammer strike. I climb the stairs, already reaching for my key when something stops me cold. The door is ajar. I know with absolute certainty that I locked it this morning. I push it open slowly. The hinges groan in complaint, and a draft slips past me into the hall. Inside, the room is dim. Only a thin blade of light from the street cuts across the floor. Someone has been here. My desk chair is dragged a few inches from its usual spot. A ledger I left closed now lies open to a blank page. The window latch hangs loose as if forced, and on the corner of the desk sits a single, unmistakable imprint, a muddy boot mark. Fresh. It matches the soil from Porter's Wharf, the dense, dark grit that clings to everything it touches. I step closer and notice something else. A folded scrap of paper is pinned beneath a paperweight. No signature, no flourish. Just one short message written in firm, merciless strokes. Stop looking for Hartwell. Not a threat. A directive. I turn the room inside out quietly, methodically. Whoever intruded didn't come to steal. They came to send a message and left just enough evidence to ensure I understood it. I check the window. The catch is bent outward as though forced from the street side. A risky entrance, unless the intruder knew I'd be gone long enough. They've been watching me. I move to the bookshelf and crouch to inspect the floorboards. A faint scraping catches my eye, the copper glint of a broken matchstick. Not mine. The brand is unfamiliar, thin wood, foreign cut. They're getting careless, or confident. As I stand, a movement flickers outside the window. A shadow, quick and intentional. I step closer, but the street below is empty save for a lone cart rolling past. Whoever watched me is already gone. I return to the desk and study the boot print again. The tread is uneven, one side worn down more than the other. A limp, perhaps, or a man who carries weight unevenly. Useful. I pocket the threatening note and close the ledger. The intruder wants me rattled, wants me off the trail, which means I'm closer than they'd like. Just as I turn to leave, something else catches my eye. A small smear of black residue on the doorknob. The same substance I saw on Clara's cuff back in the Hartwell home. The threads are beginning to intersect. Clara lied. Someone else coached her. And now that someone is letting me know they're willing to enter my office in broad daylight, I lock the door behind me twice. The game is shifting, and whoever is moving the pieces is now looking straight at me. Night falls quickly in Raventon, as if the sun has no patience for this city. By the time I reach the old river bridge, the fog is already coiling around the stone pillars like a living thing. The lantern I carry cuts only a narrow path through the darkness. The steps leading down beneath the bridge feel colder than the rest of the wharf. Colder and quieter. Even the river seems to hush itself here. This is where Hartwell's knife and watch were found. This is where someone wanted Eleanor to look. I descend slowly, boots scraping against damp stone. At the bottom, the river whispers against the rocks. I sweep my lantern across the ground. More footprints. The same mismatched tread I saw in my office. One side worn down, left foot heavier. The man follows me everywhere, it seems, just out of reach, always one shadow ahead. I crouch and run my hand along the stone wall. Fresh scrapes, a rope pattern. Someone tied something heavy here recently. A metallic glint catches my eye. I reach behind a stone ledge and pull out a small metal clasp, a cargo lock, the type used by smugglers and dock workers. But this one bears a symbol etched crudely into the surface, L. Lorne. the same name on the torn envelope from Warehouse 3. I pocket the clasp and move deeper beneath the bridge. The air thickens with the smell of oil, lantern oil. Someone was here not long ago. Ahead, the stone corridor widens into a hollow underpass. My lantern light slides over scattered crates, coils of rope, and a dented tin cup still half full of water. Someone is using this place regularly. As I examine the crates, faint voices drift from the shadows beyond the arch. 2 men, close. I douse my lantern and press myself against the wall. "Lorne wants him moved tonight," one whispers. Before that nosy bastard Hale pokes around again, my pulse steadies. They know my name. "Where is he now?" the second asks. "In the storage shed by the lower wharf, tied and gagged. Lorne said to keep him alive until the exchange." Alive? Thomas Hartwell is alive. The first man mutters, "And what about the wife?" "She already received the clues. She'll pay. They always pay." There's a rustle of movement. I inch closer, silent as the fog. "And Hale?" the second asks, a short laugh. "Lorne says if he keeps digging, we put him under the river next. Simple." The men move off, their steps fading across the stones. I wait until the silence settles, then breathe again. Hartwell is being held near the lower wharf. Lorne is orchestrating everything. And I'm running out of time. I turn to leave, but something glimmers beside a crate. A scrap of torn fabric, fine material, expensive, the kind worn by merchants. Thomas Hartwell's jacket lining. I tuck it into my coat and climb back up the steps. The cold night air hits like a slap, but my mind races faster than the wind off the river. I have the location. I have a name. And now I have proof the man is still alive. What I don't have is time. Lorne plans to move him tonight. And if I'm a minute too late, the river will claim more than just secrets. The lower wharf is the kind of place even criminals avoid unless ordered. The air here tastes like rust and brine, and the fog collects so thickly that every lantern glows like an ember trapped in wool. I move quickly but carefully, keeping to the shadows. Lorne's men said Hartwell was being held in a storage shed. There are 6 of them along this strip. Only one shows signs of life. Shed number 4. A faint orange flicker leaks through the cracks in its boards. I circle wide, listening. Muffled voices drift from inside. 2 men. One yawns loudly. Good. Board guards are predictable guards. I inch closer, stepping between stacks of crates slick with river spray. A loose plank creaks under my boot. Silence. Then, "Did you hear that?" one guard mutters. I press myself against the wall of the adjoining shed, breath tight. A moment passes. The second man snorts. "Relax, rats. This place is full of them." Their conversation resumes, drifting into idle complaints. I move again, this time slower. The back window of Shed 4 is small, but not too small for a look. I rise onto the tips of my boots and peer inside. A lantern burns low on a crate, and beside it, Thomas Hartwell. Bound, gagged, eyes closed but chest rising steadily. Alive. Relief tries to surge up, but I choke it down. Relief gets a man killed faster than fear. I need a distraction. I slip to the woodpile near the river and gather a handful of stones. Then, crouched low, I toss one toward Shed 3. It clatters loudly. The guards stiffen. "Rats don't throw rocks," one says. They grab their lantern and step outside to investigate, leaving the door unlatched. Perfect. I move fast. The moment they round the corner, I slip into Shed 4 and close the door behind me. The lantern inside casts enough light for me to work quickly. Hartwell opens his eyes, startled, but I press a finger to my lips. "Quiet," I whisper, cutting the rope at his wrists. "You're getting out of here." Before I finish the knot at his ankles, a loud shout erupts outside. "Hey, someone's in there." The guards are back too soon. I drag Hartwell behind a stack of crates as the door slams open. A figure charges in, lantern held high. I leap forward and strike hard, knocking him to the ground. The lantern bursts against the floor, flames licking up the scattered straw. The second guard rushes in, swinging wildly. I duck beneath his arm and ram my shoulder into his ribs. He collapses into the rising fire, scrambling to escape the flames now snapping at his coat. Smoke thickens instantly. The shed is turning into a furnace. "Move," I bark at Hartwell, hauling him up. We crash through the back window just as the fire blooms behind us, roaring like an angry beast. Outside, I half carry, half drag him toward the riverbank, but heavy footsteps thunder from the docks. More men, too many. A shot cracks through the fog, splintering a crate near my head. Another follows. Hartwell stumbles, gasping. I pull him behind a stack of barrels as bullets chew into the wood. Lorne's men knew I'd come. They set their own trap. But they've made one mistake. They think the chase ends here. And they don't know I've already called for help. I hear the distant clatter of hooves, Raventon's riders approaching fast. The tide is turning. Tonight the hunter becomes the hunted. The riders from West Hill Crossing arrive like a sudden storm, hooves pounding through the fog, lanterns swinging, steel glinting in the dim light. Lorne's men freeze for a heartbeat, stunned by the noise. It's all I need. "Now, Hartwell, move," I hiss, pulling him to his feet. We break from cover just as a volley of shouts erupts across the wharf. The riders fan out, blocking exits, their horses snorting clouds into the cold night air. Two of Lorne's men try to run but are tackled before they reach the pier. I scan the chaos for one face. Marcus Lorne. A tall, broad-shouldered figure bolts from behind a warehouse, cutting through the fog toward a moored skiff. Coward. I shove Hartwell into the arms of a guard and sprint after him. "Lorne!" I shout. He doesn't look back. I vault over a coil of rope, dodge a fallen crate, and close the distance just as he reaches the edge of the pier. He leaps onto the skiff, grabbing the mooring line, but the knot catches, stubborn as a mule. Good. I land on the deck behind him. The skiff rocks violently. He whirls, swinging a rusted hook. I duck. The hook whistles past my ear. I slam my shoulder into his chest, driving him against the mast. "You should have stayed out of this, Hale," he snarls, "and let you drown half the city in fear." I grip his coat and pull him off balance. "Unlikely." He reaches for the hook again, but I twist his arm sharply. The tool clatters to the deck. Lorne swings a fist, wild, desperate, but I catch it and drive him backward until he collapses onto the planks. He tries rising once more, but the fight is gone from him. The riders swarm the pier. Two men haul him upright and clap irons on his wrists. It's over. I step back, breathing hard as the fog finally begins to thin. Hartwell stands at the shore, supported by a guard, his face pale but alive, unmistakably alive. When our eyes meet, he manages a weak nod, the kind that carries a lifetime of gratitude. Mrs. Alina Hartwell arrives at dawn, wrapped in a shawl, trembling as she sees her husband. She rushes to him, tears slipping free before she can stop them. He folds her into his arms, though he's barely strong enough to stand. I give them space. Later, as the sun lifts over the river, I dictate my report on the events of the night. Lorne is in chains, his men disarmed, detained. Hartwell rescued, though shaken to his core. Motive: extortion, with plans to leverage the husband against the wife's inheritance. A simple motive behind an elaborate cruelty. As I close my casebook, something catches my eye. A burlap satchel found in Lorne's shed, now resting beside my desk. Inside lies a stack of documents, ledgers, coded notes, and a map marked with symbols I do not yet understand. Lorne's operation runs deeper than one abduction. Much deeper. I lock the satchel away, pocket the key, and blow out the lantern. The Hartwell case is closed, but a new trail has already begun to form beneath my feet, and Raventon never rests for long.